Good evening, folks. Hope your week's going well. Hopefully, we can make it just a little bit better with today's news. And I don't know if you guys saw this on the National Post. I sure didn't. I'm glad I came across it on YouTube. From the National Post, the secret RCMP warns Canadians may revolt once they realize how broke we are. So from what I gathered about reading this first through myself, apparently one of these, I think it was the writer, did a information request to the government, and they got a redacted version of a report the RCMP sent to the government about how the people of Canada, once they realize how broke they truly are, they will revolt against the government. So this is all supposedly a preemptive warning on, hey, we're so poor, we can't let our citizens know, or else it'll be mutiny. So let's get into this. Right from the get-go, the report authors warn that whatever Canada's current situation, it probably will deteriorate further in the next 5 years. How many years does our government have? Oh yeah, it has like 2 more years. And then another 3 years. So if the Liberals win, that'll mean just before their next election, not this election coming up, but next, they're saying it'll be bad. You think it's bad now? It'll be bad. So they say, a secret RCMP report is warning the federal government that Canada may descend into civil unrest once citizens realize how hopeless they actually are. The period of concession will, pause for effect, accelerate the decline in living standards that younger generations have already witnessed compared to earlier generations. I'm saying Gen X, they were lied to, but I think they kind of came up. They figured it out and halfway through, and they kind of, I don't want to say unscathed, but better than like Gen Z, and better than definitely better than millennials. But I think they're talking about boomers who had the pretty good go of things. They at least got the best economy, where is what they're saying. And this reads from a report entitled Whole of Government 5-Year Trends for Canada. Yeah, so this was a written report. So even the government says the boomers had a better economy than us millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Zers and Gen Alpha. Okay, maybe by the time Gen Alpha is old, we might get our number 2s together. For an example, many Canadians under 35 are unlikely to ever be able to buy a place to live. That's true. The report, labeled Secret, is intended as a piece of special operation information to be distributed only within the RCMP and among decision makers in the federal government. A heavily redacted version was made public as a result of access to information request. Okay, yeah, that's what I meant. Like, an information request to the government by Matt Malone. So it was somebody different than the writer. A professor from British Columbia Thompson Rivers University, so an expert in government secrecy. Describing itself as an introduction as a scanning exercise, the report is intended to highlight trends in both Canada and abroad that could have a significant effect on the Canadian government and the RCMP. Well, why are they doing a scanning exercise for this at a time where we're going through a recession? It kind of seems a little bit, in a recession like this, where we have millions of people going to food banks and people suffering from scurvy, people who have jobs suffering from scurvy in what's supposed to be a first world nation. In addition to worsening living standards, the RCMP also warns for a future increasingly defined by unpredictable weather and seasonal catastrophes. Okay, so they're talking about global warming and stuff. So yeah, they're talking about the forest fires and here we go, wildfires and flooding. So yeah, they're thinking that we're gonna be swimming underwater, and yeah, that's why old Obama there is buying up a bunch of beachfront property, because yeah, because the ice packs are melting, and yeah, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, and our wildfires, especially the ones we had from last year, were a ton from arson. The ones in the really really bad ones we had in Quebec, I think the 5 big ones came from a thunderstorm, lightning storm. Actually, I wouldn't call it a thunderstorm. It was like a lightning storm. So so it's probably not going to be as bad as we saw it last year, and that's probably not going to be a common thing. But we do have to treat our forests a lot better to make sure they don't burn down. But that's a kind of government neglecting our forests. I'm not saying it being dry isn't part of the problem, but I mean that's just one part of a very large issue we have. Another major theme of the report is that Canadians are set to become increasingly disillusioned with their government. Yeah, I think we could all say we're disillusioned with the Trudeau government, can we not? Law enforcement should expect continuing social and political polarization fueled by misinformation. At least they didn't say disinformation this time. Nobody knows the difference anymore because politicians use disinformation and misinformation together all the time. So law enforcement should expect continuing social and political polarization fueled by misinformation campaigns and an increasing mistrust for all democratic institutions, reads one of the report's overarching considerations. Well, yeah, when you allow China to build police forces in, I believe it was Toronto and London, Ontario, and there's concerns about meddling in our elections, I think that might make the civilians a little bit mistrusting of the democratic institutions, especially with all the ethical standards or ethical scandals that are going on. Ironically, among the report's more heavily redacted section is one carrying the subtitle Erosion of Trust. The past 7 years have been marked social and political polarization in the Western world, reads a partial first sentence, with the entire rest of the section deleted by government censors. Did half of that say, yeah, Trudeau, maybe you shouldn't be calling half of your population bad people, and polarizing the whole country, but you know, it's okay. It's fine. I'm sure there won't be any repercussions from this. The censor's pen also deleted most of the section warning about paranoid populism. Capitalizing on the rise of political polarization and conspiracy theories have been populists willing to tailor their message to appeal to extremist movements. Yeah, I think Canada's only really seen one extremist movement, and that's came from Quebec, and that failed and ended terribly. Well, not terribly. They got the Bloc Quebecois out of it, so hey. In terms of declining living standards and inaccessible home ownership, the RCMP's warnings are indeed in line with available statistics. Canadian productivity, measured in terms of GPA per capita, has been trending downward since at least the 1980s, but this has accelerated dramatically in recent years, even as per worker productivity rises in many of our peer countries. Yeah. As our economy decreases, our productivity is not going to increase. Our people are going to become demoralized. People have to get 2 jobs just to support their family. It's nuts. And retirement, like, that's not even a dream. Well, it's a dream, but it's not a reality anymore. You're going to have to, like, do something to earn money to retire for, like, people of the millennial and later generations. Maybe Gen X might get to retire and not do anything. Maybe. Meanwhile, housing affordability has reached worst ever levels in most Canadian markets. Yeah. You'll have to move to Edmonton and to, I was going to say Calgary, but Calgary's getting up there too, so you'll have to move to Edmonton or somewhere remote to just get, like, maybe an adequate home. I'm only specifying Edmonton because it's remote. It is a remote capital city. On average, even condos are so unaffordable that only 44.5% of Canadian households has sufficient income to buy one. For single-family homes, only the richest 25%. So, if you're not in that 55.5% or in that 75%, then you ain't getting a home. You're an eternal renter. So, you're not going to be able to retire. You're not going to be able to buy a house. You're probably not going to be able to have a family if you're not going to be able to have a house or retire. At least you can look forward to having a job. So, woohoo. So, I mean, yeah, I think by how your life goes by being able to afford rent and going to work, that would make you a little bit demotivated. Would it not? They say economic forecasts for the next 5 years are beyond are bleak. So even the RCMP is saying that our economy is trash. The media might not be saying it. The government might not be saying it. But the Queen's Police are saying it. They're like, yeah, we're in a little bit of trouble here. Maybe the proletariat are starting to might get a little bit restless if they figure this stuff out. We better hide it as much as possible. So, yeah, we know what our politicians will do, though. They'll just say everything's all good and keep going their own way. And we're seeing it now. There was just a vote of no confidence led by Pierre Poilievre, and he wasn't backed by the NDP or the Bloc Quebecois. So the Liberals, the Bloc, and the NDP are both in favor of the carbon tax hike that's coming in April 1st, and are in favor of the Trudeau government. So, I mean, hey, if you like how the economy's going, keep voting Bloc, keep voting NDP, keep voting Liberal. But if you're feeling a little bit downtrodden, and I mean, even if you haven't voted Conservative before, they're the only only party trying to get this government that keeps increasing taxes during recession out. So on that, they're the best dressed fat chick in a party full of fat chicks, let's just say. Anyways, that's it for my rant. Hopefully this helped out a little, brightened up your day, and we'll talk to you next time.